Hello everyone, welcome to Study Room. This is Anvesha, your biology educator, and today we will be studying the chapter Heredity and Evolution. So let us see what is heredity and evolution and what are the topics related to this chapter and what we are going to study in this chapter. Basically, this is a chapter of genetics where we'll be studying the different genetic makeup of our body and how variations take place and how the characteristics of one individual, like the characteristics of a certain individual, is inherited by the offspring of that individual. Okay, so we'll be seeing that how this mechanism is taking place and how we as individuals, we as species are evolving through a big time scale. Like we have been evolving, right? We all know that we were apes, we originated from apes, and then the homo sapiens, and we emerged into homo sapiens, right? So this is all a process that is known as evolution. So we'll be studying about this process, and let us see that how and what does this heredity actually mean. So first of all, we'll be discussing that why do we study heredity, right? So, to understand the mechanism by which variations are created and inherited, also to relate the long-term consequences of the accumulation of variations in evolution process. So, we need to study heredity and evolution in order to understand the mechanism, as I already said, that how variations are taking place in the individuals in different kinds of species, and also the long-term consequences, like the species are evolving from one organism, like their characteristics are evolving, and certainly through a long period of time, they evolve into newer species. So like we are said to, the homo sapiens have been said to have emerged or evolved from apes, and we have been originated from apes. So this is how we evolved, but other animal species also in the planet and other plant species also, they also evolved from some other organisms, and they have been doing that since millions of years. So this is a big process, and this is a process that results due to the accumulation of variations, and this process is known as evolution. So this process happens for through millions and millions of years, and this is how evolution takes place. So inheritance from the previous generation provides both a common basic body design and subtle changes in it for the next generation. Now think about what would happen when this new generation in its turn reproduces, right? So if there is this individual which has some characteristics and then it gives rise to another individual, so there will be some variations. Okay, there will be some variation, that there will be some differences in the characteristics. Okay, and then the second generation will have differences that they will inherit from the first generation. So these variations, and then again there will be more variations that will be accumulated in this individual also. So through generation by generation, we can see that there are certain characters that are varying in different individuals, and do all these variations in a species have equal chances of surviving in the environment in which they find themselves? So are the variations that are taking place generation by generation, do they all survive in the species? So it is a question that we need to answer, and then we get to know that it is obviously not, because there are certain variations which are carried on, but there are certain variations which are not carried on. Like if you see that human beings, I'll just give a very common example, that we have ear piercings, right? So ear piercings, but when a newborn baby is when a baby is newly born, then when you go and see his or her ears, you will never find a piercing that is there. So these are the variations that we are accumulating in the when we are alive, and this is not inherited. So there are certain variations that are inherited, and there are certain variations that are not inherited. Okay, certain characters that are not inherited. So depending on the nature of variations, different individuals would have different characters, right? Now let us see how this accumulation of variation takes place through reproduction. Okay, so we had already studied that there are two kinds of reproduction, that is, one is asexual reproduction, and the other is sexual reproduction. So offsprings that are genetically identical to the parents with no genetic diversity or very less variations, these are known as asexual reproduction. And in sexual reproductions, we have the offsprings that show variation and diversity, right? So we have seen that reproductive processes give rise to new individuals that are similar but subtly different. Okay, and we have discussed how some common amount of variation is produced even during asexual reproduction. And the number of successful variations are maximized by the process of sexual reproduction. So basically what we can understand that variations are a result of sexual reproduction. Okay, so sexual reproductions are basically they cause variations. Now how is this variation being accumulated? You can see that we saw the previous I just gave a dot wise, I just gave a dot wise example, but here we have a very good figure, okay, where we can see that how variations are getting accumulated generation by generation. Now you can see this is the individual, okay, and it has whole blue color, these whole structures of blue color. But then when it gives rise to new individuals, you can see here that this is changed, okay, and this is changed in this. So these are the variations, okay, the color change here that is shown here, that different characters. This color is changing. That means the character of the organism is changing, right? So there are new characters that are developed here. And you can see here, this is also a new character that is developed here, this red colored one and this red color and yellow colored one. Now further, when this red color one is giving rise, so here you can see this is exactly similar, there is no genetic variation, okay, there is no genetic variation, but here you can see that there is genetic variation, okay. This blue color thing is again changing into pink color, so this is also a variation. Here what you can see, when this one gives rise to these two individuals, then we have this one and this one, okay, so this is changing into green color, so there is variation here, there is variation here, but you can see a big chunk of variation that is happening in this organism, that is a new character, a certainly very plausible new character, very evident new character is getting accumulated here. And you can see here this whole color, the whole color of the bigger part of the large chunk of this individual is changing, and that means that this characteristic is a very, very important characteristic that is changing and that is evolving and that is varying through generation, through reproduction, right? So here you can see this is a big variation that is taking place. These are variations, these are also variations in the character, and this is a big variation that is taking place. So here you can see that how, through accumulation of variation, and this is happening through reproduction, and there is this new characters that are emerging, very basic or very very important characters that are developing due to reproduction, due to variation that is happening through reproduction. So here you can see that how a diversity, how diverse this whole process of reproduction is, and how important it is in giving rise to variations. Now creation of diversity over succeeding generations. Now you see here, and diversity that is being created. See here, this is an organism, and from this diverse kind of organisms are getting made here, right? So there is a genetic diversity, or there is a genetic variability that is occurring, okay, and the original organism at the top will give rise to, say, two individuals. Here we can see that it is giving rise to two individuals, and certain characteristics or certain variations are being developed here, okay. While some of these differences will be unique, as you can see here, these are unique variations, others will be inherited from the respective parents. Like you can see this blue part and this blue part, these are, as it is, they are inherited from the respective parents who were different from each other. So this is how, variations are happening. So variation is a very chance process. There is a selective process that is happening. There are selective variations that occur through generation by generation, and that occurs due to the process of reproduction. Now let us study the in-text questions and answer them. So the first question is, if a trait A exists in 10% of a population of an asexually reproducing species and a trait B exists in 60% of the same population, which trait is likely to have arisen earlier? So trait A we have 10% of the population, okay, and trait B we have 60% of the population. Now, since this is more, evident, and this is more in number, okay, this is more in number, so we can just say that this trait has arisen earlier because it has spread to a big number of population, a big number of variation, like this variation occurs in a big number of population, and that is why this trait B has arisen, it has arisen earlier. It is likely to have arisen earlier and has spread to 60% of the population, while trait A is new and has spread to only 10% of the population, right? The next question that we have is, how does the creation of variations in a species promote survival? Okay, so the variation provides stability to the population of various species by preventing them from getting wiped out during adverse conditions. The natural environment also changes, and variations in species which become suited to the environment help it to survive. So you can see that at times when there are certain adverse conditions, adverse natural conditions, then these variations actually help and they come and rescue to the species, to the individuals of the species, and they help in the promotion of survival. So that is how a species continues to live generation by generation through millions of years. So that is all for this video as an introduction. In the next videos, we will be studying more about the chapter. Thank you so much.